Hi there. This is Andrew Gluck. I'm here with John Norwood from John Norwood Consulting, LLC. And John is going to show us ReportCheck for PortfolioCenter.
ReportCheck is designed to automate the error checking process for PortfolioCenter. We're looking now at the main screen in PortfolioCenter. And what we're actually looking at is a list of ReportCheck jobs. Each ReportCheck job runs a batch print job from PortfolioCenter, saves the data to XML, then programmatically processes through all the XML data to find the errors. So I'm going to give you a quick example. Let's see what it's doing. I've specified the application server, the database server, the database name, and the data set within PortfolioCenter. And then it actually, ReportCheck displays a list of all the batch reporting jobs that have been created for this data set in PortfolioCenter. And I've selected this first one, batch 01A, to run. Now, this could be a batch print job that an advisor uses for quarterly reports, or it could be a batch print job specifically set up to look for errors. Here on this first line, you can see the application server, database server, batch print job. So these jobs can be set up for multiple databases, multiple data sets, multiple batch print jobs. They can each be run on demand. They can also be scheduled to run overnight if they are particularly large.
Can you just zoom in?
This is all test data that I've specially constructed to have errors, so that I can test the application itself. But if we double click on this job, we can actually see the output from it. It's grabbing the data from PortfolioCenter and then programmatically looking through it to find errors.
And what are the errors? What are the common errors?
Okay, let's look glow. Let me show you just another picture of what some of the errors are. It looks for invalid returns, either time-weighted return or internal rates of return. One of the things that it does very nicely is that it looks for outlying returns to a benchmark that's included on the report, or it can compare the return to absolute minimum and maximum limits that you specified in the parameters for the job. So typically advisors are scanning through reports looking manually for outlying returns. This automates that process.
So John, when you say that it'll do that outlying returns, is that going to be for each client's specific bogey, or is it going to apply one benchmark across all my clients and tell me whether or not there's an error in the returns that way?
Well, if you're comparing if the returns, you're determining outlying returns relative to a benchmark, it's going to be relative to the benchmark that you've selected for each client. So different clients, you include different benchmarks on their reports.
And is that going to do it on a portfolio basis or on an account basis?
It depends on how you set up the batch print job. It could be per account or per household. Now,
any other possibilities aside from per account and per household?
Well, you can. I mean, it will look at asset class returns. It will look at individual security level returns. If you've got a report.
So you depending on what report you've created, that's what it's going to use.
Exactly.
Got it.
It looks for missing asset classes, sector and subsector assignments. Advisors typically categorize their securities by asset class, sector, or subsector so that they can sort assets properly on the reports. Or if they're rebalancing portfolios, each asset needs to be assigned to the appropriate category. And so this finds any asset that's not assigned to a category. It will also look for numbers that are so big that they won't print on a report. I mean, that's typically indication that there's some kind of problem. It also looks for out-of-date performance values. The way Portfolio Center works is that it computes monthly performance, and then those monthly returns are linked together to produce the return for the total period that you've requested. And that data, they're called intervals. Those intervals are not automatically updated, so it's possible that they could be out of date. If, for example, there were any as-of transactions that downloaded after the intervals were calculated, ReportCheck goes through and validates all of that performance information to make sure it's up to date, or it tells you if it's not up to date.
The other thing I'm wondering about is, and this is a politically incorrect question, I apologize for having to ask it, but I think it's a fair question.
Sure.
Why is an add-on needed by Schwab to do this? Why wouldn't, and I know you can't speak for Schwab, but I think it's a fair question. How come this isn't native to Portfolio Center? What do you think?
Well, I mean, I agree. I think it should be. There is some error checking that goes on in Portfolio Center. There are a number of different reports. In fact, one of the extra documents that I just emailed to you, and we can look at it on the screen, gives you a comparison of the error checking functionality in Portfolio Center versus ReportCheck. It's not that there's no error checking in Portfolio Center. There is, but it's not as comprehensive. And then a lot of this error checking, though, you really fall back to visually inspecting the reports. There's not an automatic way to do it. This ought to be in Portfolio Center. It was talked about off and on in my experience, and I used to hear it from clients a lot. That's why, when I left Schwab, I decided that, okay, so what are the opportunities to continue working with Portfolio Center? And this is one of the first things I came up with.
Well, tell me about the pricing of the product.
Okay, the product is priced based on the number of accounts that you're actually doing the checking on. Now, keep in mind that an account in ReportCheck terms could be a household or it could be an individual account. So if you're just running the report for a household through the system and that household has, let's say, 10 accounts in it, ReportCheck only considers that to be one account. And so it's basically the base minimum price is $1,000 a year. That covers the first 1,000 households, or individual account if you're not running households through the system.
Would there be any reason that I need multiple licenses, or does that cover multiple licenses?
No, it's one license per firm.
But then you can have several users.
Yes, you can have as many users as you want. There's no limitation on the number of users. I would be glad to send out a trial copy of the software that will run for 30 days for 1,000 accounts. The only thing you've got to lose is just the time you put into installing it and using it, and people can see firsthand, what the quality of their data is. If it's perfect and they don't need it, then they've confirmed that. But if it starts showing errors, then they may want to consider licensing it so they can. Let me point out a couple more things about the application itself before we run out of time. You can see this first error, the error that I've highlighted. It's Amazon.com. It says a missing asset class code. Now, if I want to verify that error, I can double click on it. It will actually show me the report. And I can see that there's Amazon right at the top. It's missing the sector code, asset class, and subsector code.
So show me where the actual problem has shown up in the reports.
Okay, on this line I've highlighted on the screen,
yep.
Amazon.com.
missing sector code and missing asset class code.
Yes, missing those two.
And normally you'd have to do that manually.
Right, you'd have to look at this piece of paper. You can find missing price errors. Let's come down here. I'll show you a couple. This is a very common error that people are always saying, okay, I've got to find all the returns that have 2 dots. That's how an invalid return prints in Portfolio Center. So this line that I have highlighted in the Joel Abbott portfolio, in the Portfolio Performance Review, and it's saying that the line says that time weighted return gross, and it's for this 4th time period as an invalid return. So if I look at that report, and now I'm looking at here at this 4th time period. Actually, there's a number of errors on this report, but it's listed. But I've got the 2 dots for the 1st, 4th, and 5th period.
Yep.
That's an all. Those 2 dots indicate that Portfolio Center could not compute a return for that period for some reason.
And congratulations. This is a great idea, and good for you. Thanks a lot for showing me this.
Right.